You made it back to warehouse and operations as a career. I'm Marty, and I'd like to thank you for listening in with us again today. I myself have been in Nevada all week. Just got back home this evening. I had plans to record this week's episode from out there and have a special guest set in, but, well, best laid plans, right? Things just really got busy, and to be honest, we just never had time to connect. You know, when you're traveling for work, you always think, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and there never seems to be enough time to even accomplish the objectives that you've set out to get done. We had planned on or wanted to speak about frontline management and a few of those positions, and I guess along with some of the challenges of being a new manager. Now, him and I are going to schedule some time over the next few weeks and get that episode done. But as I sat down tonight to produce something for the week, I thought of 3 recent incidents that I'd heard about and I wanted to share. Now, although they were presented to me as safety opportunities, I'd like to talk about them, but from a frontline management perspective. A bit about the responsibility end and where those responsibilities really land. I've written down about 6 bullet points. Let's breeze through them real quick. So the first one, and we've all probably seen something like this happen, think back to what you did or what was done about it in just a moment. So a floor supervisor witnessed an associate skating across the dock on a manual pallet jack. It's fine. Maybe we've all done it at one time or another. Come on, be honest. So anyway, unbeknownst to him, his manager had witnessed the whole thing as well. The supervisor had stopped the skater and, well, I guess you could say counseled him. There wasn't anything really formal, no written warning, he just verbally talked to him for a moment. At the end of the day, his manager called the supervisor into the office. He told him he had witnessed the event and was quite disappointed that the gentleman was still working with him, or at the very least a corrective action had not been created, with a few suspension days given to the employee. The supervisor expressed that he felt any of that would be just a little bit harsh. The gentleman that was caught skating had been with the company for 5+ years, very productive, and honestly was one of the best employees that he had. He had spoken with him, told him not to do it anymore, explained it was dangerous, and that he felt like that would be enough. The manager asked the supervisor, did the employee know that skating was against the rules? The supervisor answered, yes, of course. It's probably talked about 5 or 6 times a year. Then the manager asked if the supervisor knew how much a broken arm or a broken wrist with lost time and productivity would actually cost, or how bad the employee's family would be hurt due to the reduced income that he could be receiving if something had happened. And then the manager explained something that really stuck with this supervisor. He pointed out that yes, this gentleman was a great employee, loyal, and very productive. But if he shows disregard for the safety rules and his company's policies, what kind of an associate is he really? And how will others, especially new hires, feel about all the culture of safety things you teach every day out there? Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yes, he broke a rule. It was more serious than the supervisor had treated it. The supervisor, after rethinking it and learning from his manager, realized what he had overlooked, the big picture, the responsibility part of his job, and his responsibility for his employee. The following morning, he called his employee in, discussed how dangerous what he had done was and how it could have ended very bad for him. And they talked about how others would look at him as well. How the new hires looked up to him, and did he feel what he had done was the light that he wanted to shine on others. The employee understood, and from what I heard, felt a bit bad after they had talked it through. And he definitely did not understand the 3-day suspension and written warning that he had received, along with a warning that any other safety violation would be grounds for immediate termination. But hey, safety is important, the most important part of our task each day. Being a supervisor, it is our responsibility to see and think about the big picture, the long play when it comes to safety. Now here's one that is so obvious that I don't know how it happens. Notice I said happens and not happened? I wanted to point out that we all could have been guilty of it, and something like this probably happens every day. So an employee was unloading a rail car using an in-place dock plate. A dock plate that has a lip that stays on the dock and a lip that extends inside the rail car, and you can drive a forklift or a pallet jack across to load or unload with it. The story involves a pallet jack operator. This particular dock plate had a bent fin, or the part on the bottom that sits between the dock and rail car to keep it from sliding too far into or away from the rail car or dock. But by it being a little bent, the edge of the plate could raise up just a little bit, just enough in this instance to stop the associate's pallet jack as he was entering the rail car. And I mean immediately stop the jack, throwing him to the ground and bruising his shoulder pretty bad. Well, the investigation showed that 4 or 5 others knew that fin was bent. They all had been using it that way for quite a while, and one of those 4 or 5 had been the supervisor himself. Now, of course, the supervisor felt pretty bad after safety pointed out that it was his. I shouldn't have said pointed out. I mean that he felt pretty bad after safety reminded him that it was his responsibility to make sure he supplied his crew with the proper tools to do their jobs with. As frontline management, we have to take on the responsibility of doing our jobs well and protecting our teams. We have to look and think ahead. We have to incorporate safety into every move that we make. I think we have time for one more really quick. A reach forklift operator was entering a freezer vault. His right outrigger clipped an empty pallet that had been left on the floor, which slid into another empty pallet, which then pushed a pallet that an associate was standing on. Yes, you heard me right. An associate was standing on an empty pallet. Now, luckily, the employee wasn't hurt at all, but that could have ended very much differently. A manager was notified and, of course, started an investigation. Turns out that the supervisor on the floor had seen a lot of empty pallets being left on the floor and was going to talk to the crew about it after their next break. You know, when he could gather everyone up really easily. By waiting, it had almost cost his company and one of his team members a lot of anguish and time. As a supervisor, we have to act. Waiting on any thought will only get us in trouble and cost our company time and money. If our thought has anything to do with safety, we have to act on it in the now. We cannot wait till the then. Safety has to come first. Now, I know all this is hard. We have our agendas too. We have to get the doors open or closed, the product in or out. It's hard to, we all know safety is our priority one, but sometimes it's hard to stop our operation and make a point or, present an example or cover an incident with our teams. We have a job to get done. But I have to ask you, can we afford not to? Think about it. Over the next few weeks, I'd like to look a bit deeper into the roles of frontline management. So if you have any stories to share or questions that you'd like us to get an answer to, just shoot me an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com and we'll get an answer or expand on a thought. I appreciate you checking in again this week, and I hope to see you again next week. Until then, think, act, and be safe at work and at home.